Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. So in today's video I'm going to be doing an updated album ranking. So I did this quite a while ago now, but now we have a brand new album called The Tortured Poets Department. I thought I would refilm this video. My opinions have kind of changed. So we're going to start with my least favourite Taylor Swift album and work my way up to my favourite Taylor Swift album, which I don't know if you can already tell, surely not. At number 11, and no matter what album I put here, it's gonna upset some people. My least favourite Taylor Swift album would have to be Lover. This has changed because in my last video I said Debut was my least favourite Taylor Swift album, but the reasoning for that in that video was because it was her first album. I feel like my least favourite Taylor Swift album would have to be Lover, purely just because there's honestly the most amount of skips on this album. It's kind of like an all or nothing album for me. I can't really explain it. For me, there's honestly probably about 3-4 real standout songs. And for me, those are Cruel Summer, Miss Americana, Daylight, and obviously the iconic Lover. Most of the songs on this album I have mixed views on. Like, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. There's also Death by a Thousand Cuts, which the bridge saves the song. It's not a bad album, it's just the weakest in my opinion. Okay, so I personally don't even really agree with my own album ranking of Taylor Swift's, because at number 10, I've kind of got two, but then I've got the same two at number 9. So between number 10 and number 9, it's between Debut and Fearless. I would put Debut lower in my album ranking, purely just because it was her first album. I'm going to use that excuse. It was her first album, she was testing the waters, so obviously Debut is going to be lower in my ranking. I just don't know how low, because personally for me, the album only has maybe one skip. I'm not going to tell you what that one is. If you want to find out what that one skip for me is, then I will link my ranking Debut video down below. So the other album that is ranked this low would have to be Fearless. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that it's a bad album. It does have its iconic hits. Love Story, 15, Fearless, You Belong With Me, even White Horse, The Other Side of the Door, The Way I Loved You. However, I feel like maybe the album is just a little bit too long. It's definitely not an album that I would go to listen to. Although it has its iconic songs and it made its mark in history as it should. However, if we think about the Vault songs, I couldn't even tell you how they go. I mean, apart from Mr. Perfectly Fine, but even Mr. Perfectly Fine, in my opinion, is a slightly bit overrated. I probably prefer the album of Debut, but I feel like the album Fearless is a bit more memorable. I can't really explain it. At number 8, and again, I still don't even really agree with my ranking here, but I can definitely agree with my top 5, maybe top 6 album. Next album that I've got in my ranking is Midnight. I feel like I was just expecting more from this album. It's a good album. It's probably just a good album rather than a great album. So at number 7, we have The Tortured Poets Department. I think I prefer The Tortured Poets Department to Midnight. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people can agree with the fact that I kind of did expect more from this album. Also feel like one of the things that really puts me off this album is the fact that we got a double release like on the night of the release. I wouldn't have minded a double album, but I feel like she should have waited at least a week or even just a couple of days. I'm not really 100% sure on how cohesive, I say that word so weirdly, this album is. I feel like some of the songs, even like Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, it doesn't really link with the story. Oh, at number 6, we've got Red. I just feel like Red was iconic. It's not an album that I go to listen to that regularly, so that's why it's not as high in my ranking. I guess you just have to be there. Oh, my top 5 albums. At number 5, we have Evermore. I love this album. I'd say there's probably maybe a few skips here and there from this album. I'm not going to tell you what my skips are. At number 4, we have 1989. This is a Bible. This is a pop Bible. This is pop perfection. I think it is actually the definition of pop perfection. And the vault tracks, they are the best vault tracks that we've got, I think. Okay, so now we have come to my top 3 Taylor Swift albums. And at number 3, we have Reputation. Actually, when this album first came out, I didn't love it as much. I will never forgive myself. I don't know what I was thinking of this album. My second favourite Taylor Swift album is probably her best album. There is a difference between her best and my favourite. So, at number 2, we've got Folklore. There is just not one thing that I could fault about this album. So 1989 is the definition of pop perfection. Folklore is the definition of perfection. 11 out of 10 for me. So that leaves me with one album left, which is my favourite Taylor Swift album. And that is obviously Speak Now. It's my favourite re-recording so far, but that is also probably just because this is my favourite album of all time. Not even just by Taylor Swift, but one of my favourite albums of all time. I don't know how to even explain it. It is my favourite Taylor Swift album and nothing's ever going to change that, I feel. So that is my Taylor Swift album ranking. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your Taylor Swift album ranking down below. I will see you very soon. Bye!